Alright, yeah, this is part 3 of schizophrenia mental health, my experiences. Yeah, just talking about, I'll just carry on from the end of the last video, talking about voices and kind of my understanding of voices. I've got kind of many different feelings about voices, really. I think they can be caused by many different things. I mean, people throughout all of human history have reported the voice of God in their head, the voice of angels, the voice of spirit guides. There's many actually historical accounts, not in mainstream information, but if you look for it in other places, there are accounts of people from different civilizations communicating with what they call spirit guides and things, divas, different entities, destructive, negative beings, forces, and all sorts. It's in kind of a lot of religious and spiritual documentation throughout all of human history. And to me, voices can be a mixture of things. They can be one of a few things, or a mixture. I do believe sometimes our own individual psyches, in a sense, can become split and become very self-destructive. That the kind of parts of the psyche that have kind of suffered and traumatized and neglected and were very needful, kind of deflect off the psyche and then can almost attack the self. And that's one of my understandings for it. And I think in another way, going back to what I said, I think taking drugs as well can open up holes in your aura and your psyche that other things can get into, because I think certain drugs, more natural ones, I think are more beneficial, can be less harmful and sometimes beneficial to the mind and psyche. But yeah, I've got a lot of different views on things, and I'm not kind of accurate about all of them, but I think voices can be that. I think voices can be parts of the psyche splitting off and literally attacking itself in a way, being self-destructive and almost shouting to be heard. This part of yourself, this part of your spirit, part of your psyche that is so traumatized or hurt in some way or so scarred that it's split off, and it's literally almost shouting to be heard, but in a very confused, dysfunctional, negative way. This is what goes back to kind of shamanic ideas of soul retrieval, of like kind of uniting parts of the soul and the psyche and things back into a unified self. So there's that idea, I think, and that feeling. I do feel parts of that was my experience, but also do feel that during my psychosis, the voices I had were also entities and different spirits talking in my head, and some were very helpful, some were literally trying to help me, and others weren't. They were being very destructive. So I'll go back to some experiences then. I was walking down locally. I just visited my nan. I used to visit my nan and granddad quite often when I was in my teens, when they were alive. And walking back through a kind of like a tiny little wood. It's only a tiny wood with some paths in it. I remember walking through there, and what I believed to be at the time were spirit guides, but I realise now they could have been other spirits or entities pretending to be spirit guides, and they were saying things through my head onto me, onto my energy field, and I started to experience that as soon as they said or called me anything, or I felt I energetically became it. And so it was a really weird kind of, went through all these experiences. Say, for example, I was walking through this woods at this time, and they'll go, "Ghost, you're a ghost." And in my head and in my body, in my experience, I experienced I was a ghost. I felt my energy and who I was, my body was just kind of this white sheath of energy, viewing the world just as a ghost. And it was almost instantaneously as soon as they say things, and in a way this kind of gathered this belief that the voices could turn me into different things just by saying it in my head or visualizing it. So I felt these forces start to have control over me, and I started to realize, in a sense, I had this kind of naive, blind trust that these were spirit guides trying to help, which I read a lot about, and I was obviously becoming very withdrawn and detached from normal logical thinking, normal logical reality, consensus reality. So I was walking through, and then I felt like I was a ghost. It wasn't too much of a bad experience, but I understand at those points, this is when I started to fall into psychosis, uncontrollable psychosis, where literally all your logic and rational thinking is totally out the window. For me anyway, there was no rationality, there was there was no logic there present anymore. The person, the kind of relaxed person in the own psyche, goes completely. For me, that was the case, and that kind of was one stepping stone of where these voices started to really take control. But at the same time, it was like, anyway, a lot of my experiences and memories of those times are very mixed and fragmented, so I'll probably jump around a lot explaining them to you. So yeah, that kind of started to happen, and then I started to have. I used to stay up in my room quite late. I was studying art and design at college at the time, and I'll stay up very late, and I'll be doing drawings with my pencils, writing my diary, philosophising and keeping accounts of my philosophies and insights and realizations. I do believe I was getting spiritual revelations and realizations and insights very frequently, and I wanted to document them. And so I used to keep this whole folder, and it must have been probably about that thick after 2 years, of all interesting sketches, mostly diary and philosophies and insights and accounts I had of various states of mind and things. And so I started to have a few weird experiences in my room. Over winter, coming close to my 19th birthday, I'd sit in my room, and I kept feeling this presence of something behind me, something very, in a sense, demonic and evil and, you know, damaging, that wanted to hurt me. And I did a few drawings, almost like channel drawings, and I saw this kind of negative, almost like a demon looking through me. And I was at the time very caught up in my mind between good and evil, between light and darkness, and I've become very, what would you call it, polarized in my philosophy. And I realised that was where I went wrong a lot. I mean, to be honest, there's a saying that goes, which I believe strongly now: there is no such thing as negative energy, only energy that we cannot yet handle and deal with. And so in that retrospect, I don't believe in demons anymore and evil forces. I believe they're all just, they're energies and forces that no matter how cheesy it may sound, but without love, without the light, without their you know, wounded, damaged energies and entities and spirits that have not, who have lost the connection to the source. And that is a sad thing for them. You know, they may try and cause harm and destruction upon people, but unless we try and unite them into the community of love and light and happiness and harmony, then they'll always be on the outskirts of, you know, in pained emotions. So I do believe that entities and spirits and forces which people call demons do exist, but the more power we give them, then the more power they will have over us. And you know, so I do believe understanding them and try and send love to these beings and these entities is the way forward to try and, you know, heal these scars from their past as well, which is their past. Anyway, so at the time I become very polarised in my mindset, in my philosophies of good and evil, and I did start to believe. I had a couple encounters. Yeah, so in my room I was kind of drawing these things, and I started to feel this almost like a very dark presence of a demon behind me in the evening, and witnessing. And over about 2001, my sister asked me to stay at her house, and because she was having some bad experiences with ghosts, and she kept feeling this around 2 a.m. or mainly at 2 a.m. in the morning. She'd wake up in the night and so would my niece, and they'd feel this cold chill, and, you know, sometimes hear footsteps, but feel this presence of quite a negative, suppressing energy, almost like a, you know, like a ghost or an entity or something. So I went to stay there with them, and I started to flip out really. Then it started to get a bit haywire. I stayed there, and I started having these like insights, these visions of this kind of channel, like a soul channel, like a energy, so energy like a ley line, but not like a ley line, like a soul cord that went through my sister's house from under the earth into the universe, into the sky, and these souls were travelling through it, and most of these souls were lost souls or tormented souls. And so I was seeing this kind of channel of kind of green spirit energy, and these faces coming out of it and kind of, you know, going up and not really being out. And I think that I felt this is where these ghosts and spirits were coming into my sister's house. So I remember going downstairs, and I felt this horrible, very dark, heavy, demonic voice saying in my head, get out, you are not welcome here, get out. And I kind of said in my head, I kind of spoke to it and said, I will not leave, I'm here to protect my sister, I will not leave. Anyway, so I went back into the room where I was staying for a while, and I started to spray salt. I put some salt down on the floor and windowsill, because I know salt is a crystalline structure, and that will have some effect against demonic and dark forces, evil energies, evil forces. And this is how I was thinking, very polarized. Evil, gotta get, fight evil, be good, the force of light. In a way, I suppose I did become a light bearer, a channeler of light. And in a sense, I believe this is probably where I found that opposition. I was building myself up to be a warrior of light, and I therefore was met by warriors of darkness, in a sense. I mean, I've got a lot of mixed feelings and philosophies and theories which I'm not all that accurate about, but this is what I really feel. I was creating myself to be a warrior of light, and I met that kind of, my experience was is that I met the warriors of darkness because of that. This was one of my trials, this is one of my steps I had to overcome if I was to continue on the path of being a light bearer, spiritually. Which I don't really believe in anymore. I believe being a peacemaker. That's what I really believe in. Being a spiritual peacemaker, being a warrior of energy, a warrior of love and hope and trust and harmony. That's what I believe now. Not trying to fight off certain things or, trying to fight the darkness. I believe in kind of trying to harmonise the two. Anyway, going into a bit. So this was an experience I had. I remember walking back to my mum's that time, and I had this kind of past life memory, and a lot of psychosis and schizophrenia was me. I really do realise now that a lot of it was an amalgamation, past lives coming through and experiences in other lives, and I do believe I was kind of connecting to earth memories and other spiritual energies and memories that the earth had. I do believe in the Akashic records, and that we can connect to all the history of that has ever been on this planet and in other people's minds. And I do believe we kind of pick up the history of the land and experiences that the land can remember, that the traces of energy and traces of memory that the land holds. And I do really believe that. And anyway, so I was walking back at this night, and I really felt like I was a Native American Indian, and I do believe I had a past life as a Native American Indian. Well, that's not a belief to me, it's an experience. And so I was kind of praising the spirits. I felt connected to the stars, and I believe I was kind of channeling energies from the stars and stuff. And I was in this kind of role of protecting my sister. I stayed there for a couple of weeks, and I would I was kind of, suppose I was being a kind of shamanic healer. I was there to protect my sister, and I was trying to ward off these evil spirits and demons and ghosts from this place. But I kind of was met with a lot. So yeah, it all started to go a bit mad and crazy. From that point, I decided I'd become so sensitive, and more bad experiences I had in my bedroom, where I used to write and stay up late and things. I started to feel a really dark energy in my bedroom. So anyway, I'll end this video for now, and I'll carry on part 4. Alright.